If you have a child that's been diagnosed with ODD or oppositional defiant disorder, that can be a real challenge as a parent. Today we're going to talk about some ideas that can help you discipline your child that has ODD. This channel, Principle-Based Living, is about recognizing and understanding that there are laws or principles that govern this world in which we live. And if we understand what those principles are and we live our life in alignment with those principles, then we're more likely to get the outcomes in life that we want. You know, most of us who become parents, we have this idea or this belief about what it's going to be like to be a parent. And oftentimes it doesn't turn out to be exactly the way that we think that it's going to be. And when that happens, then we respond in ways that we've been conditioned to believe, but usually we respond in ways to try to make things be the way that we want them to be. Because we have this belief that if our life was the way that it's supposed to be, then we can be happy. But the truth is, I don't know that there's any person whose life turns out to be exactly the way that they think it was going to be or the way that they think it's supposed to be. You know, we live in a world that is perfectly imperfect. And the reason for that is because this earth experience gives us the opportunity to learn the things that we need to learn and to develop the skills that we need to have in order for us to become the people that we need to be in order to be happy and to be happy in any circumstance. And I believe that's the purpose for all of our behavior is we do things because we think that what we are doing will bring us happiness, will give us what we want in our life. But we get conditioned to believe that it's all about controlling these external things or things outside of our control. And what this belief does is by trying to control other people and to control circumstances outside of our control, what we're actually doing is giving away our power and control. And when we're trying to control others, oftentimes what we do is invite more of the behavior that we don't want instead of influencing new and maybe healthier behavior. So we're going to talk about this oppositional defiant behavior, which is really about a child who wants to argue all of the time, that wants to resist all of the time, that doesn't follow rules, doesn't follow authority, and pretty much does whatever they want to do. So think about this. Why would a child behave this way? And you have to remember and look at that everything we do for a reason. And just a few minutes ago, I mentioned that my belief is that everything we do because we think that it's going to make us happy. So why would a child argue and resist and defy and do all of those things? Well, I believe it's because they have a belief that by doing those things, it's going to bring them the happiness that they want. The flip side of that is that they may have a belief that if they do what they're being told to do, that will bring unhappiness. Maybe they have a belief that if they do what somebody else tells them to do, that they're giving up their control. And they may have a belief that the only way that they can really be happy in their life is if they have control over their life. Those beliefs would not be at a conscious level. They would be at a subconscious level. So those would be beliefs that have been created because of the experiences that they have had throughout their life. So in order to help a child change their behavior, they first need to become aware of, well, what are their beliefs that are driving that behavior, and to actually see that the behavior that I am engaging in isn't really giving me the outcomes that I want. And so in order to do that, you first need to be able to have a relationship with your child to where you have influence over them. Because one of the foundational principles of this life is that principle of control. And there is no way that you can control your child. You can't make them do anything except for what you're physically able to do to control them. So you can't make them think a certain way. You can't make them stay home, unless you physically control them or restrain them and keep them at home. You can't do any of those things. All you can do is influence. So again, if you understand that the reason that they're making the choices that they're making is because at some level they believe that that's what they need to do in order to be happy, then what we need to do is help them understand that that is a false belief and to help them have the correct belief. So let's just take that belief about control. I've worked with a lot of teenagers who have told me that they have actually behaved in ways or made decisions and choices that they wouldn't normally do or they wouldn't do in and of themselves. But the reason that they do it is because their parent told them not to. So they have this belief that they want to be in control of their life. And if they do what somebody else is telling them to do, that person is controlling them. Well, the truth is that even if as a parent you tell your child what to do or you tell them that they must do this, if they do it, they're doing it because they choose to. Now, we may do things as parents sometimes to feed into that false belief where we feel like we can control and we can make our children do certain things instead of helping them realize that they're free to do whatever they want to do, but there are consequences for all of our behaviors. And so as a parent, if I have a child that again is in this place of they're going to resist anything I tell them to do, then what I first of all want to do is I want to withdraw from that. I don't want to engage in a power struggle with them, because if I get in a place where I'm trying to make them do something, well, they're going to resist to prove that I can't make them do anything. So I'm going to back off and I'm going to say to them, if you want me to do this for you, then my expectation is that you'll do this. If you choose to do this behavior, then the consequence is I will do this or I won't do this. Now, it's important to understand, again, that when I set consequences, it needs to be something that I control, not my child. Sometimes parents will use things like, if you do this, then you're going to be grounded. But if you've got a defiant child who is going to resist everything that you've asked them to do, well, when you ground them, then they're going to resist the grounding. And so they're either not going to come home when they're supposed to, or they may sneak out. Or if they're really defiant, they just may walk out, in front of you and basically kind of say, what are you going to do? Let's talk about if you have a teenager, you have control over certain things like their ability to get a driver's license, whether or not you will pay for a cell phone. You have control over your home and what happens in your home. Whatever it is that the consequence that you put in place, it needs to be something that you control, not them. And then you back off and you allow them to make the choices and experience the consequence of their choices, all the while now working on building and strengthening your relationship with your child. So looking for things of common interest. Maybe you need to begin to take interest in some of the things that your child has an interest in. Maybe you've expected all along that you want them to be like you and to be interested in the things that you're interested in. Maybe if you would shift a little bit and take interest in some of their things, you may begin to build a relationship to where your child wants to be around you a little bit more. Maybe your child will actually get to know you a little bit better and understand why you're doing the things that you're doing. Because ultimately, I believe that children and parents want the same thing. Children want to be happy and they want to be in control of their lives. As parents, we want our children to be happy and we want them to be able to take control of their life. But too often we're just butting heads with each other and we think that the other side wants different things. So if we can get together on the same page so that I can understand that the reason my child is doing what they're doing is because they want control of their life and they want to be happy. And if my child can see that the reason that I'm doing what I'm doing is because I want my child to be happy and I want them to be in control of their life, now we have the same goal. And if we can now work together and just begin to communicate and seek to understand each other, because we may just have different ways of accomplishing that goal. But until I'm willing to understand the other person's point of view, then I'm probably going to just get more resistance. And so as a parent, maybe the first thing that you can do is to work on trying to seek to understand your child and where they're coming from. But if you're at a place where that communication is just broken down, then you need to back up again, put boundaries in place, but at the same time work on building that relationship. And that may take time, but it will be worth it. Remember this, that raising children is a long term, it's a lifelong process. And oftentimes we get caught up in we want things the way that we want them to be right now. And as a result, we have fear going on, and then we behave out of fear rather than love. In doing that, oftentimes, again, we create or we invite more of what we don't want. So work on seeing your child for who they really are. Try to understand what is the goal or the reason behind their behavior, and see if you can't come together on the same page and then both work together on that goal of helping your child be happy and to create the life of their dreams. Thanks for watching. Be sure and subscribe to our channel, ring the bell so that you can get daily notifications of new videos. And if you're watching this on LinkedIn, be sure and follow me here.